Welcome, astute observers. The most potent force in any dynamic isn't the loudest voice. It's the quiet resolve emanating from the one who has consciously chosen silence. This isn't merely an observation, it's a psychological truth. Research demonstrates that a noticeable withdrawal from someone previously engaged invariably triggers a heightened state of curiosity and even anxiety in those around them. The human brain is intricately designed to register behavioral shifts, and few things are more unsettling than a change that defies immediate explanation, particularly when that change originates from you. And lately your silence has been deafening, not the silence of simple busyness, not the silence of exhaustion, but a profound quietude that feels like the pregnant pause before a cataclysmic shift. Serene on the surface, yet within a storm of potential is brewing. Understand that silence is not synonymous with weakness. It is in fact a formidable weapon. You've ceased broadcasting your strategies, and those who once presumed to challenge you are now grappling with the uncertainty of your intentions and future actions. This ambiguity, this enigmatic aura is consuming them. Ironically, some may have interpreted your quiet as a sign of retreat, but deep down they are beginning to suspect a far more significant truth. You've abandoned the practice of issuing warnings before you act. Primarily, your detachment has shattered their illusion of control. Your withdrawal wasn't merely a removal from the conversation. It effectively dismantled their stage. For an extended period, they operated under the comfortable fallacy that they exerted a degree of influence over you. They believed that as long as you remained within their sphere, they could predict your reactions, sway your decisions, or even manipulate your choices. Your presence provided them with a sense of inflated importance, a delusive feeling of power over your domain. However, the moment you embraced silence, you deprived them of their most crucial asset, access. Access equates to control, and control is contingent upon the ability to intrude upon another's space and manipulate the elements within it. They mastered the art of pushing your buttons, of provoking a reaction, of deciphering your moods simply by observing you. But now, devoid of visual cues, lacking avenues for provocation, and unable to trigger a response, they are left to speculate, and that speculation is driving them to the brink. Your detachment is achieving something they were ill-prepared for. It's compelling them to confront themselves. They can no longer deflect from their own shortcomings by fixating on you. They are unable to point fingers, distort narratives, or subject you to their scrutiny. Without your presence as a target for manipulation, they are forced to confront the stark reality of their diminishing control. And here's where the discomfort intensifies. That stark reality is beginning to reflect their own inadequacies. Individuals of that nature thrive on your reactions as a source of validation. By denying them that you disarm them of their preferred weapon. They cannot satiate their ego by defeating you if you are absent from the arena. Your silence has become a mirror they desperately avoid looking into, revealing the truth. Their sense of strength was contingent upon your participation. They are now forced to confront a truth they long avoided. The control they believed they possessed was illusory. It existed solely because you permitted it. And upon your withdrawal, the entire construct crumbled like a house of cards. This is why your silence evokes such unease. It's not merely the absence of sound. It's the disintegration of their perceived power. And once that illusion dissipates, they recognize they have nothing substantive to leverage against you ever again. Secondly, you've severed the lifeline that nourished their egos. They flourished on the attention you once lavished upon them. Whether it was praise, concern, or even exasperation, every reaction you offered served as fuel for their self-importance. Your expressions of care validated them. Even your anger provided a sense of significance as it confirmed their capacity to affect you. The balance of the energy was inconsequential. The critical factor was that it originated from you imbuing them with a sense of importance. The day you embraced silence marked the day they lost that vital connection. You ceased justifying your actions. You stopped defending your position. You refrained from ensuring they understood your feelings. This was not accidental, it was a deliberate choice, and that choice severed them from the unwavering stream of energy they had come to expect from you unquestioningly. The current situation is straightforward yet devastating for them. Bereft of your energy to rely upon, they must confront the emptiness they have long evaded. They had been utilizing your responses as validation of their importance, confirmation of their place in your life. Now that you've withdrawn that sustenance, they struggle to locate that sense of validation elsewhere. And the most troubling aspect, they lack the capacity to generate it independently. The silence you've imposed is not merely an absence, it is an exposure. It reveals their dependence on you for validation. It exposes the superficiality of their emotional foundations. It exposes the fact that the power they perceived was merely a reflection of your willingness to engage. They may attempt to provoke you anew, not out of genuine conflict, but out of a desperate craving for the validation your attention provides. They may test boundaries, deliver veiled insults, or resurrect dormant issues in an attempt to elicit a response. But when you refuse to rise to the bait, they are left to grapple with their own emptiness. This is the pivotal moment. They are learning, whether consciously or not, that your energy is not a public utility to be tapped into whenever they feel diminished. By severing the supply, you compel them to recognize that you are not theirs to exploit, and that realization is a power they can never reclaim from you. Thirdly, your stillness amplifies their guilt. By ceasing to respond, you eliminated the ambient noise that allowed them to disregard their own actions. As long as you were engaged in dialogue, defending yourself, providing explanations, or reacting in any way, they could fixate on you rather than confronting their own culpability. Your words, whether composed or impassioned, provided them with something to latch onto, something to twist, dismiss, or utilize as a pretext to avoid introspection. But now they have nothing to deflect. All that remains is the unvarnished truth, and it weighs upon them more heavily with each passing day. Your silence is not merely the absence of conversation, it is the absence of distraction. With your voice absent from the equation, their conscience resonates more loudly than ever before. The words they spoke, the choices they made, the manner in which they treated you. Those memories are not fading as they had hoped. Instead, they are replaying in their minds without any competing stimuli to drown them out. and regardless of how fervently they attempt to suppress those thoughts, they persistently resurface. The guilt they bear may not always be conscious. It may manifest as irritation towards you for your lack of engagement. It may manifest as attempts to portray you as the source of the problem to others, as that is less challenging than acknowledging their own role in the situation. But beneath it all, there is a growing awareness that your absence is inextricably linked to their actions, and that awareness evokes a discomfort that is difficult to dispel. This form of silence is perilous for them because it compels them to confront themselves in a manner they never anticipated. They cannot rationalize that you are overreacting or being melodramatic when you are not even communicating. They cannot accuse you of instigating a conflict when you have provided them with no grounds for contention. This leaves only one conclusion, and it is one they are loath to admit: they were wrong. The longer the silence persists, the more burdensome that realization becomes, and what unsettles them most is that you are not attempting to induce guilt. You are not pursuing closure, demanding apologies, or attempting to validate your position. The burden they experience originates from within themselves. That is the type of guilt that is deeply ingrained, and it is the type that will perpetually haunt them when they reflect upon you. Fourthly, they are realizing that you operate on a different frequency. You no longer operate on the same wavelength, and that is becoming increasingly apparent to them. In the past, they may have thrived on drawing you into their chaotic world, provoking you until you snapped, baiting you into disputes, or instigating conflict simply to witness your reaction. That was their comfort zone. They were adept at navigating chaos because it was their natural environment. But now you have consciously removed yourself from that domain. You do not participate in their tumultuous dramas. You do not engage in the games they attempt to involve you in. You have learned to maintain equilibrium regardless of the intensity of their disruptions. Your silence is not a form of retreat. It is not an act of avoidance, concealment, or capitulation. It is an act of conscious control. It is a deliberate decision to refrain from expending your energy in environments where it cannot flourish. And that decision disrupts their entire playbook. When they are unable to elicit a reaction, their power diminishes. Without your emotional participation, their tactics prove ineffective. There is nothing for them to exploit, no chain reaction for them to perpetuate. It is as if they are casting sparks into the ocean. You have become impervious. This is unsettling for them because it signifies that they can no longer decipher you. Individuals who thrive on emotional manipulation rely on predictability. They require the certainty that if they exert pressure on a particular point, you will respond in a predetermined manner. However, you have altered the rules without forewarning. You do not react impulsively, you calculate strategically. And that intimidates them more than anything, as calculation implies foresight. It signifies that you are not merely enduring their attacks. You are skillfully outmaneuvering them. Operating on a distinct frequency also signifies that you are no longer susceptible to their conventional methods. The insults, the rumors, the sudden outbursts, they no longer affect you in the same manner. You are not drawn into their realm of immediate reactions and impulsive decisions. You have transitioned to a state where your actions are deliberate, intentional and nearly imperceptible until their culmination. That level of discipline distinguishes those who are merely playing defense from those who have already secured victory. And now they recognize that you are no longer a vulnerable target. You are not even present in the same arena. They can unleash as many emotional attacks as they desire, but you have already distanced yourself from their reach. That is when the realization dawns: you are a strategist, not a reactor. And strategists invariably dictate the final outcome. Fifthly, you have redefined the battleground without notification. They were prepared for conflict, but they were prepared for it on their terms. They had established the stage-devised arguments they could manipulate to their advantage, propagated rumors to influence others, and refined manipulative strategies over the course of years. This was their home territory. They were intimately familiar with every aspect of it, every effective tactic, every angle they could exploit to portray themselves as powerful and you as insignificant. They assumed that if a confrontation were to occur, it would transpire within their sphere of influence on the ground they controlled. However, you denied them that satisfaction. You did not appear on the stage they had constructed for you. You did not engage them in the environment where they possessed an advantage. You transported the entire conflict elsewhere, to a place where they lack any foundation, influence, or ability to manipulate the outcome, and you did so without warning. That is the element that truly disorients them. Had they anticipated that you would alter the rules, they might have attempted to adapt. However, you afforded them no time to adjust. One moment they were preparing to draw you into their world, and the next you had already departed from it. They are still launching attacks, still employing their customary tactics, but they are now striking at empty air. They are shadowboxing against an opponent who is no longer present in the room. And here's what truly wounds them: you did not simply depart. You transcended the entire game. It is not that you declined to engage in combat out of fear or unpreparedness. You declined to engage in combat because you recognized that the conflict itself was beneath you. You recognized that achieving victory in their domain would not constitute a genuine triumph. It would merely demonstrate that they could still drag you down to their level. By redefining the battleground, you force them into a position to which they are unaccustomed: powerlessness. They cannot tarnish your reputation in a space you do not inhabit. They cannot manipulate your emotions when you deny them access to them. They cannot declare victory when you are not even participating in the same game. And the more they comprehend this, the more frustrated they become, as they intrinsically recognize that you have already prevailed simply by refusing to engage in combat on their chosen ground. Sixthly, they are experiencing the chilling sensation of irrelevance. When you ceased engaging, you accomplished more than merely creating distance. You deprived them of the very element they relied upon most: the affirmation that they remained significant to you. Every conversation, every reaction, every exchange you once had served as a constant reminder that they were still central to your life. Even if the exchanges were strained, even if they were rooted in conflict, it still kept them at the core of your emotional universe. And for someone who thrives on that type of attention, its loss is akin to suffocation. The shift occurred abruptly. One moment they were certain they were a principal character in your narrative, and the next they had been relegated to background status. That type of decline is brutal because it forces them to confront the truth they were not as crucial to your life as they had believed. And the silence exacerbates it, as there is no dramatic farewell, no emotional resolution, no moment in which they can at least feel as though they had the final word. It is simply nothing. Irrelevance typically infiltrates gradually for most individuals, but for them, it struck with the force of a wall. They have constructed their identity around being significant in your life, and without that role, they are adrift. They may attempt to persuade themselves that they are indifferent, but their actions will betray them. Subtle attempts to entice you back, veiled insults, or even extravagant displays intended to recapture your attention will ensue. But regardless of their efforts, they cannot disregard the truth they have been superseded not by another person, but by your own inner peace. What stings most is that you did not even need to announce this transformation. You did not convene a meeting and declare that they were no longer significant. You simply ceased investing energy in them. That quiet withdrawal of your attention is more devastating than any confrontation could be, as it conveys without words that you no longer perceive them as a factor in your life. For someone who once fed on your reactions, your indifference is the ultimate blow. It is not anger, it is not animosity, it is nothing. And for them, nothing is the most devastating outcome imaginable. And now they must reconcile themselves to the reality that they have transitioned from being the focal point of your attention to merely another name in your past. Seventhly, your evolution is unfolding beyond their purview. They once believed they had a comprehensive understanding of you. They believed they could monitor your progress, anticipate your actions, and remain abreast of your development. That belief instilled in them a sense of comfort, even superiority. However, you have now undergone a transformation that has completely obscured their line of sight. They cannot observe your actions, they cannot assess your current state, and they have no insight into what is to come. That type of uncertainty is unnerving for anyone who once felt in control of the narrative. What torments them is not merely the fact that you have grown silent. It is that the silence has been productive. You have not remained stagnant. You have been engaged in self-improvement in ways they cannot witness, investing in ventures they are unaware of, and progressing without broadcasting your every accomplishment. From their perspective, it feels as though you have entered a hidden realm to which they have no access. And individuals fear what they cannot monitor, as it signifies that they cannot influence it, halt it, or prepare for it. They are beginning to piece together fragments of the truth, however. Subtle hints emerge, subtle shifts in your demeanor, glimpses of newfound confidence, traces of progress they cannot fully account for. They observe it in the way you communicate differently, carry yourself differently, or respond to situations with a composure they have never witnessed before. It indicates that you have been evolving in ways that transcend superficial modifications. The perilous truth for them is that this growth is irreversible. They cannot sabotage what they cannot observe. They cannot impede opportunities they are unaware of, and they cannot prepare for a version of you they have never encountered before. That is what renders this type of evolution so potent. You have become unpredictable in the most advantageous sense. Each day you advance further without their awareness. You widen the chasm between your current state and their expectations of you. And as that chasm expands, their sense of powerlessness intensifies. It is one thing to be uninformed. It is another to realize that the person you underestimated is constructing something beyond your grasp. Your evolution beyond their purview is not merely progress, it is a quiet revolution. And when it finally becomes perceptible, it will be far too late for them to adapt. Eighthly, you are no longer a predictable character in their narrative. They once possessed a comprehensive understanding of how to provoke you. They had a mental playbook containing every recorded reaction, the words you would utter if they antagonized you, your response to the silent treatment, the manner in which you would rush to defend yourself against fabricated claims. They not only knew the dialogue, they authored the script. And as long as you performed your assigned role, they felt in control. However, something transformed. You ceased participating. You ceased providing them with the reactions they had anticipated. Your silence disrupted the entire storyline they were depending upon. And now they stand there without a script, uncertain of what is to follow. That uncertainty gnaws at them because it reveals the extent to which they relied on your predictability. Predictability is the lifeblood of manipulators. If they can accurately predict your reactions, they can plan their actions in advance. They can construct traps they know you will inevitably fall into. They can manipulate your words into preconceived formations. However, unpredictability is a dangerous territory for them. It signifies that they cannot plan. It signifies that they cannot guarantee the outcome. And when they cannot control the outcome, they feel exposed. Now every attempt they make is marked by hesitation. They are uncertain whether you will disregard it, counter it, or dismantle it in a manner they have never witnessed before. That hesitation weakens them. It causes them to question themselves, reconsider their tactics, and refrain from engaging in attacks without forethought. And in that hesitation, you gain even greater strength. What they are beginning to recognize is that you are not merely unpredictable. You are intentional. You are not reacting impulsively. You are making deliberate choices, and that distinction alters everything. It signifies that they can no longer decipher you as if you were an open book. It signifies that they cannot confine you within cycles from which you have already escaped. It signifies that the game they believed they were winning is now one they no longer comprehend. Unpredictability is not about being erratic. It is about being strategically adept enough that no one can anticipate your next move until it is already in motion. And that is your present position. You have removed yourself from their script entirely, and without you performing the role they prescribe, their entire performance is collapsing. Ninthly, you have transformed their curiosity into obsession. When you were accessible, they could monitor you with minimal effort. A brief conversation here, a fleeting glance at your expressions there, perhaps a few indirect inquiries directed at your acquaintances. Simple. They invariably possess just enough information to feel as though they understood your life. However, when you severed that access, you created a void. Initially, it was merely curiosity. They wondered about your activities, your feelings, your plans. But curiosity cannot remain unanswered, and it soon began to evolve into something else: obsession. Now they are not merely wondering, they are actively seeking. They devote greater attention to your unspoken words than to your spoken ones. They scrutinize subtle details for signs: a change in your attire, a subtle modification in your tone, even the company you keep. They search for hidden clues in matters that are not even related to them, desperately attempting to construct a portrait of your life without your explicit disclosure. The nature of restricted access is that it compels individuals to fill in the gaps themselves. And the human mind possesses a propensity for fabricating narratives that are far more sensational than reality. In their minds, you are suddenly making significant advancements, engaging with influential figures, and constructing something monumental behind the scenes. Every unknown transforms into a potential breakthrough. The less they know, the more they imagine. And the more they imagine, the greater their need for conclusive confirmation. This is where it becomes problematic for them. Obsession is not passive, it is active. They initiate roundabout inquiries about you, monitor you from a distance, and perhaps even scrutinize your online presence. They cannot openly admit it, but you have become a puzzle they are determined to solve. And with each day you withhold information, the puzzle appears more complex. What they fail to recognize is that this obsession is a form of power you now wield over them. You are not pursuing them, yet they are expending mental and emotional energy in pursuit of you. You are not satiating their curiosity, yet it grows stronger with each passing day. They desired to be in control of your focus, but now unintentionally you have become the center of theirs. And the most frustrating aspect for them, they have no certainty whether or not they will ever obtain the answers they seek. Tenthly, they are realizing that they were never the source of your strength. For an extended period, they perpetuated a comforting narrative that they were the catalyst for your personal growth. They convinced themselves that without their guidance, influence, or even criticism, you would not have discovered your path. They may have even spoken about you to others as if they had cultivated you, subtly taking credit for your development. So to wrap things up, remember that profound silence isn't emptiness, but rather a powerful statement of self-possession. It's about reclaiming your energy, disrupting the narratives others try to impose on you, and ultimately stepping into your own authentic power. It's a journey of self-discovery and strategic action that can reshape your relationships and your understanding of yourself. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you ever experienced the power of silence in your own life or witnessed it in others? Share your stories, ask your questions, or just join the conversation in the comments below. Let's learn from each other. And if you found this helpful or inspiring, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos exploring similar topics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, in the next one, in the next one, in the next one, in the